Hey there, welcome to the Newswire. Producer Alex and I sitting here chatting this morning. Man, there's a lot kind of overarching going on, whether it's the tariffs between Canada, US, Mexico, China. You have the whole Doge and everything. You have people attacking Tesla dealerships because they're so upset with Elon.
Literally.
You know, we have a lot to discuss this morning. The main emphasis, I would say, is kind of like, all right, here we are about 6 weeks into the new administration. We've gone through all the things, and this is the two things that I kind of want to center on today is, are we worse off or are we going in a better direction? And I think that's kind of an overarching for a lot of people. They're upset about the tariffs. They're upset about Elon. Elon's scared to death that somebody might kill him, as he, shared on Rogan. And this last weekend of people attacking Teslas, dude, is warranted. And then we also have this kind of the next political, I would say, cycle is starting. Governor Gavin Newsom last week dropped his podcast with the, I would say, almost ultra-right Charlie Kirk. Dude, it's a very interesting time right now to kind of be addressing this in the
Canada.
Yeah, in Canada. So let's start there. This confused me. It confused you. It confused a lot of others. I had to reach out to a friend of mine who lives in Montreal to say, dude, help me out here. So many weeks ago, Justin Trudeau, the prime minister, resigned. Okay, most people resign. It's going to be like right now or whatever. And then he's kind of engaged in this like back and forth finger pointing, getting aggressive with Trump. And you're like, dude, didn't he resign? And not really people understood. Well, over the weekend, it was released. Well, he really did resign. And it's like, oh, for reals this time? And
for reals.
What I learned is what had to happen is he resigned. And then his party had to approve it, that his resignation, and they had to put somebody else in his place.
Yeah.
So they did that over the weekend. The announcement was this morning. You have the gentleman who is stepping forward, and he has to be confirmed through election, but a little different than what we're used to in the United States. But this would be my guess. I know of the people that I know in Canada, no one has liked Trudeau. I would say his approval rating is probably less than what it was for Biden in the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know that exactly, but I'm going to go on a very short limb and probably not fall on my face. And so you look at what's going on here and, this back and forth on tariffs. And I think maybe let's just start there is we'll see if this new prime minister, when he takes place, actually gets
Mark Carney.
Mark Carney. If that changes things with Trump. But I want to address this one right here, right now. So many people are confused about the tariffs, whether you're in Canada or they're in the U.S. So many people in the U.S. is, how dare the U.S. put on these tariffs and drive up our cost of living? Yeah. So I want to address that one first. I had this discussion with a friend, and we were talking about the reality is this is what happens. You see this around some pundits on social media, is the utilization of tariffs. One-sided may drive up your cost. But remember, Trump is a negotiator. He isn't just putting on tariffs and turning around and dealing with the next thing. He's putting on tariffs because he wants something back. He wants them to, Canada, he wants them to show up at the border and actually be border agents instead of putting all of the cost and onus on the U.S.
Right.
So I think we've seen him kind of like, we'll put on tariffs and relax them. Like, if you're going to come to the table with me, great. And my guess is Trudeau probably stopped being at the table. And that's where Trump's like, I'll just take you over as 51st state. And then the Liberal Party's like, woo, we don't want that. So we got to get Trudeau out, which my guess is what Trump wanted.
And I mean, let's stick with Canada, the new prime. So Mark Carney comes in, head of the central bank over in Canada and England. Seems like a smart guy, but and this is where we were both like trying to understand Canadian politics. There's still going to be within the next days or weeks a vote of Right. So Mark Carney,
confirmation, I think.
yeah, but like the Conservative Party could actually, what I've been reading is that they've been leading in a lot of polls recently. And so Mark Carney might not even end up being the prime minister. It could be someone from the conservative side.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's kind of like a re-election.
Exactly. There's going to be another election here very shortly, which is interesting because it's
here's
totally
what's kind of fun. Not knowing much about Canadian politics, this is interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like in the U.S. during COVID, people did not realize how much power states have. And we see that being exercised right now with some of President Trump's executive orders, if it is in regards to trans athletes competition, where states said no. And, 5-6 years ago, we would have thought, the executive order from the government, federal government's that we just kind of have to, adhere to it. The states have you can't tell us what to do. And that's where Trump's like, well, then you don't get any of my money.
Yeah, no federal funding.
It's
like this battle.
Right. So coming back to Canada, however that plays out, but kind of the idea of tariffs. And one thing that, again, here we have this quote unquote 25% tariff. U.S. has said, we're going to put this tariff on you. Canada's like, well, we're going to put tariffs right back on your products.
Right.
Here's the big confusion. As it stands today, the products that Canada wants to bring to the U.S., there are very low tariff. There's not if they have a strategic advantage, like I know in New York, Michigan, and Minnesota, those states get a lot of electricity from Canada.
Right.
And so the big threat is we're going to put a 25% tariff on that. Okay. The U.S. gets lumber from Canada. So there's kind of playing with that one. In regards to we get some like wheat, some barley, some of those crops from Canada. But in regard to dairy products, in regard to other food products, in regards to, construction supplies, there's a friend, they live in Winnipeg. He runs a roofing business. 100% of his products come from Minneapolis.
Oh, wow.
And so, but here's the thing is, the Canada has long stood, if we want to protect our industry, say, for example, agriculture, specifically dairy, and we put huge tariffs on U.S. products. So, for example, dairy products have a 250% tariff on U.S. products entering Canada. 250%. I think if they're, you go down through like lumber and some of those other things, all right, we don't have a strategic advantage, but Canada has huge tariffs on U.S. product. And so that's what people don't understand is they're like, really what I think Trump is saying is like, all right, you want to play this game, then you can put on these tariffs. That's fine. But as people are understanding, I have less to lose because you have much, much higher tariffs on our products than anything I'm going to do on products coming out of your country.
Well, the other thing that was interesting, Tyler, I don't know if you saw this, but then China put tariffs on Canada over the weekend.
I did not. Okay.
Yeah. So, which was like, is there some sort of, is that coincidental?
No.
Yeah, right. And then so I'm going, okay, so now China's stepping up to the plate and tariffing Canada, which is pressuring, now they're getting tariff from two sides. What's the end game here? Here's the end game. Here's the end game.
And the reality is we have I'm going to state it now. I had this conversation with a friend. I'm not going to call it a pending recession, but we have a pending financial rebalancing.
Yeah.
We're going to see further stock market, crypto, all those things sell off. They have to. It's just normal in this fear. So we're going through a massive financial rebalancing. Let me just share this from an understanding. The best thing the United States can do with an impending economic rebalancing, right? One of the things that Trump was tasked with by voters, lower our cost of living. Okay.
Right.
Well, how do I do that? I do that by rebalancing costs.
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest way to do that rebalancing cost is to address unfair international trade. Okay? That's one piece of it. We're talking about that with tariffs. The number two thing, and this is what people don't understand. The best thing we can do in a potential economic rebalancing. The US is the gold standard. That has been kind of held in the world. If anything falls apart economically in the world, people would rather have a foot in the US market because it just tends to be healthier, or it tends to rebound faster than some other places because of our tax, because of our opportunities, all those things. If we have a rebalancing coming, and that means potentially recessionary type things, what's the best thing that we can do to protect US business, jobs, those things?
Quantitative easing.
Okay, that isn't where I was going, but I should have been. The best thing we can do is drive more business in the US.
Okay.
So what have so many companies, worldwide companies, said is like, oh, we don't want to play the tariff game, so we're going to move manufacturing to the US.
Yeah, that's happening.
Guess what that does? That protects us in a recession fallout. Because now we have jobs here, we have product here, we have business going on here. If we have this rebalancing, it's not somewhere else, and we got to try to grab that money from them. The money's here.
And President Trump spoke, I think it was over the weekend on Sunday, about a potential recession on the table. He's not ruling it out. I don't think we want to, but
we have to.
Yeah, I think to your point.
If you study economics, if you study trading, if we don't have a recession and a rebalance, the inflation will never be fixed. There's only one way for inflation to be fixed, and that is for a rebalancing to occur.
Yeah, the short term. I mean, and he's called for this. Is that we might experience some short term pain for some long term gains, and he spoke about,
to me, everything.
And this, Tyler, again, I think there's going to be, he's trying to make an alliance. There's some sort of backdoor alliance with China, because he again mentioned China in this interview, saying, because usually he talks pretty negative about China, but just saying how they have these 100-year plans. China thinks very macro, right? And he kind of alluded to that fact of just like, we can't be so short-sighted. Yeah, there's going to be some short-term pain. We're trying to fix, the country's, financial deficit that's been going on for years and years now. And there's job cuts happening in the Fed. We're trying to figure out where all this money is going.
Well, here two thoughts that are going through my mind. China can have a 100-year plan because they're communist and they have a dictator, right? Period. That dude's in office. And his part, like whatever their plan is going to follow through. We're on a 2-year cycle. And it's really a 1-year cycle, because you have a year to do something, and then the next year is campaigning for your election, and it is putting your hands out and appeasing whoever to give you money. So we've gone into this hyperventilating. It's kind of like the stock market. The stock market looks quarter to quarter to quarter. There is no long term. And if organizations can privatize and say, I'm not going to get sucked into the short term, whipsaw, I'm going to face more long term. We have to, as a society, embrace that. All right, that's one. Number two is the only way to survive long term is to endure short term pain. If you want to improve your, marriage, all right, I got to endure short-term pain to be able to be less selfish and more about them. If I want to, lose weight, I have to endure the short-term pain of, eating better, working out more, however that equation is. That is what's going to yield a long-term result.
True.
There's a comment about leadership. Leadership is disappointing people at a rate that they can withstand. Mm-hmm. And we very much are in that with regards to the tariffs, or if we want to jump to Elon and Doge, and one of the best things, and had this conversation with some friends, and maybe we were talking about it, is how different things would be if Vivek Vivek Ramaswamy if he
Right.
was still involved with Doge, because his ability to communicate and I would say be political is way beyond Elon. Elon just doesn't give a rip. And so he just rips the Band-Aid off. And then sometimes like, oh, I took half my arm with the Band-Aid. Let's put that back on. That's
Right,
just who he is. And that's what he's done. And unfortunately, that's made the Doge stuff difficult. Whereas I think Vivek, he communicated beforehand, and whether the two of them couldn't get along, or, no one really knows, or if he's like, I really need to go, start this campaign for governor. Not sure. But the idea in all of this leadership, this positioning, is it takes a political savvy.
Yeah.
And and so many people want to blame Trump for not having that. Oh, he has way more than you realize.
Oh yeah.
He just doesn't give a F about what you and I think in regards to the short term, and especially for people that didn't vote for him. He's like, I will never appease you. So instead, I'm going to affect your life by serving everyone else. And guess what? I care about you. I'm not coming to your face unless you attack me and my people that I care about. I'm not going to come and attack you. You are a person that I care about. But at the same point, if you're going to come with knives to stab me in the back,
Right.
I'm going to take care of my people. He's proven that.
Yeah.
So
I was going to ask you a question. We're talking about recession fears. We're talking about all the volatility because of the tariffs and that are being implemented with trade partners, these trade wars. And, people listening and watching, maybe their jobs are on the line. Maybe they don't have a job. Maybe they're just worried. They got a lot of money in the stock market and they see things crashing. What is the straw that's going to break the camel's back, if you will, that you think will actually get us into a recession? Because we're not there yet.
So here's the thing that I would usually, typically recession is, and I'm just pulling up the stock market to see where we're at today and kind of talk about this, is recessionary to me is we have a massive reduction in the overall quality of life.
Mm.
If we want to stop and think about it, the last several years, as good as it's been for some people, I would say the overall quality of life, if we gauge it on debt holdings, the anxiety, the fears, we've had as much, if not more, from those classical recessionary type times. If I think back 08, 09, if I think back, early 2000s, I think back other times, we've had that. It's just our stock market has gone like this. So everyone making money there has gone like this. And there's been very little societal volatility. If I think back when in 08 and what affected my business the worst is we saw over a 12-month period, the price of commodities double in value and then come out.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you a figure. A product went from $5 to 10 back to 5. So that 100% swing both ways, that killed businesses. Killed them. It would be like today, all of a sudden, I'm going to go back to a construction company, right? We'll just talk about a construction company.
Yeah.
It would be like I have, enough product sitting on my shelves to, 3 months worth of business product on my shelves. And I've paid $100,000 for it. Okay.
Right.
And 3 months ago, when I bid all those jobs, the cost of all that product was only $60,000. But I got to do the jobs. I can't tack on the price. And that's what it is. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, if we have extreme volatility, the value of that $100,000 products, which is still the value because that's the market. So if you want to take it to the bank and you can borrow against that, all of a sudden the market crashes and all of that stuff is worth $60,000. Now I'm screwed because I overpaid by almost 50%, 100%. The value of that, now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
We have not seen that at all. What we've seen is the value of those products has stayed consistent, but I went from having 4%, 5% corporate money like business money, interest rates to 7 to 8 at times.
Yeah.
And that was, for so many businesses, the cream on top of their coffee. Meaning, that was the extra money that we can either give bonuses and do those things. And now all of that's gone. Is like, we may still have our margin. Maybe we don't do extra things, but we can still operate. But all of that interest rate money just put us in a pinch. And so now, one of the things that I can foresee, if we can move more manufacturing here, if we can move more investment to the United States, we're going to see people take money out of the stock market, because that's normal this time of year anyways, take profits. We see the stock market come down, and we start to see some of, this rebalancing in our economy. It's quote unquote could be S&P or stock market recessionary. But I'm not convinced it doesn't negatively impact a lot of everyday people, because if we have more investment here, we have more potential for jobs. There's more stability where we haven't seen volatility. That is what's kept our economy going the way it is we haven't seen the massive volatility that has driven previous recessions.
And, with, the Fed, have being tightening rates over the last several years, is it?
Well, here's a big misconception.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I talked to a friend of mine who does real estate development. Is the misconception is that the federal rate, as it's softened up, as it's gone down, has directly correlated to the interest rate that homeowners and or businesses can get. The reality is those two, there's a bigger spread now than there's been historically. Because a lot of financial institutions are like, we don't want to overdo ourselves. So the federal rate has dropped, and maybe someone that wants to go buy business, they'll be really low on rates, but we're holding ours up here. We're holding it up here because, we're not really sure. And so I think one of the things to come, if we see people take money out of the stock market, they're going to want to put it in places. And so we could see interest rates drop without the federal rate changing at all.
Do you think, this just seems, sometimes I think it's like, it's all timed, right? Like Trump first called, he's like, the Fed needs to cut rates, right? Because he knew if the Fed didn't cut that there would be a recession, and the Fed's obviously going to run, on their own time and what they want with this 2% inflation core CPI. And then Trump's like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and, force a recession to basically force you to cut rates.
And again, I think that will be extremely healthy for us.
Yeah.
It has to. Like, if we can't go from, like I got a picture from my wife. She was in Salt Lake City. She and my daughter went to In-N-Out.
Oh yeah. How'd that go? How was that?
It was a good trip. They had a good time. It was, it was difficult. It was a very, like as Kelly said, people in Utah, they are way serious about their dance. They're serious about everything, which is good. But it was like, it was deep water. It was good for them. Stretch, right?
Yeah.
But they went In-N-Out. And she sent to me the prices at In-N-Out. And I'm like, I wonder what, and they seem very reasonable, like $2.95 for a double. And, sent me the rest of pricing. And I was like, okay. And I said, well, I wonder what they are in California. And so she sent me back, saw a screenshot what prices are in California.
Triple.
So for the same double and double, it was $4.29. And her comment was, oh, not that big a difference. And I'm like, that's 50% higher.
50%. Yeah.
That's a lot. And so if we look at this, say this same concept, if we want the price of a double to get back under $3, then we're going to have to go through recession. That's what it means, is it like slows down in order that, we have a lot of product. We have a lot of beef. We have a lot of, wheat for buns. We have a lot of potatoes. It makes those products cheaper, or we have energy costs that come down that makes those products cheaper, which is the first thing. Then we're going to get our food costs back down. But that only happens if, again, the whole thing slows down to where they can't keep moving product. It's economics. I failed it, but I still understand it because I've had to live it. Is, yeah.
I pay attention, obviously gas prices, I drive a decent amount. Last week, I saw here in Florida the price dipped below $3. It was like 280s actually.
Good for you. Good for
and
you.
and now, but then just this morning, I saw it was back up above 309.
Yeah,
So
good
I'm
for
like,
you. Good
what?
for you. I
What is
live
it
in
in
one of the
Washington?
highest priced gas states
Washington?
in the country. Oh, dude, it's stupid.
What is it up? What is the prices?
I think regular unleaded. I think for I filled up my son's truck and it was $3.79.
Okay,
That's 30% higher, 40% higher, and that is 100% road tax. It's just tax.
What's 100% road tax? Oh, there's like a
the
tax
difference in price? Yeah,
Okay,
because I can go across the border to Idaho, like literally gas station on this side of the road, gas station on that
and what's
side
the
of the
price
road,
difference?
and it's anywhere between 75 cents and $1 difference.
Wow,
Dead serious.
They must.
Like I will go
people
out
must
of my
drive.
way. Now my kid's school is really close to the state line, and so there's a gas station right across the state line. I will go over there when I need to fill up, and I'll save $25.
I got to ask you a question. Your son and his friend, they started trading.
Yeah, I need to ask him what's going on. I haven't looked at his account and see what's happening. He hasn't talked much about it lately, so I'm wondering how this. My guess is that he's not doing hot, which I anticipated. Like, hey,
Yeah.
if you're going to trade, you're going to go up, you're going to go down, and
It's a tough
can you
market.
stomach it, and can you, learn? And
that's the biggest thing.
we
Learn at a young age.
Yeah, so I need to ask him how it's going. I
Yeah,
know
I'd be interested, given
my
what we're
wife in
talking
the
about
crypto
now.
game, not so hot. In the
Yeah.
meme game, no, not so hot. But
Not so hot.
let's jump to Elon. Okay.
Okay.
Elon and Doge. So there was Elon was on Rogan. One of the clips there is, Rogan just kind of asked him like how it's going. He goes, I can't really say because I'm scared for my life.
He tried to get it out of him. He tried to get him like, what
and Elon was kind of like, and he was very like pretty sincere in the fact that I'm afraid I'm going to get killed for exposing this stuff.
Yeah. Runs deep.
Which is really interesting because it's so funny now when you look at especially political alliances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Extreme right, extreme left. And, Elon has a electric car company, among other things, and that has been wildly embraced by a sect of our political sphere, which is mostly environmental. I would say the extreme right. This goes back to like Prius drivers. Hey, if you have a Prius, that's great. But I remember 20 years ago, it's like I'm a Prius driver. All right.
I remember.
And so
that.
now we have this contingent that is, they've been card carrying Tesla, save the environmenters.
Right. Yeah.
And now they're driving around in their Tesla and they have a circle with an Elon circle through it. Or people have been offloading their Teslas because they just don't agree with them politically. And, now recently in Oregon, we had 2 different instances in Oregon where there were Molotov cocktails. They were, shooting at cars, like destroying cars in what would be presumed as an attack on Elon himself. It's kind of crazy and it's kind of scary. And it's also, I would venture this, as I've heard, extremely short-sighted.
Yeah.
But I think
100%.
people that choose to do that stuff probably don't have the greatest rational decision-making.
Oh, I mean,
is that fair?
It's just emotional decision making based on what? I mean, things you hear about in the media. I think it's a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt that's driven into certain people's heads.
Let's separate the two. Let's separate the attackers of Tesla, dealerships, cars, those things, and the people that are now either putting a Elon sticker with a line through it on their Tesla or selling their Tesla. So let's separate those two groups. One of them, man, that's crazy, right? As far as attacking. The other one that are like, I disagree now with Elon, so I'm going to not own this vehicle. Let's talk about that group. What are your thoughts on that group?
I mean, if you really think that, you have the right to do whatever you want, first and foremost. If you really think that Elon is evil and doing all the wrong things, don't buy his car, sell it if you own one, and buy another electric vehicle. I mean, there's tons of them on the market. It's like, I don't know. I don't. And yeah, again, it's like,
here's the question. Is it and I alluded to this earlier in regard to, how maybe Elon addresses things compared to like how maybe Vivek might have. We had a short sample, might have. Is it that people disagree with how he's handled things? The layoffs, the whipsaw, which I've referenced earlier, as far as the massive back and forth. Oh, we fire you one day. Oh, we really need you the next. I would say his track record has shown that's how he does business. Do you think it is I disagree with how he's doing things, or I disagree with everything he's found and all the money that he is taking away from organizations? What do you perceive to be the main?
I think it's just ever since he aligned himself with Trump.
Okay, so you think it's more that?
I think it's political. I don't think it's if it wasn't Trump, if you just remove Trump from the equation and it was anyone else almost, I don't think you would see anything near the extent of which has occurred. I think it's just that because he's aligned himself with that individual, that is the catalyst. That is
so that's interesting.
That's my opinion.
Well, and again, I mean, that's why we're talking about it. I speculate that it has more to do with, he seems like it's this impression of, oh, I thought Elon was a tree hugger. I'm just going to say it that way. Okay. I thought Elon was, I'm going to go save the environment. Like he wanted to saddle up next to, not Bernie Sanders, but who was it Ron Paul, or who was it that was in the Northeast? That was
Rand Paul.
Yeah. Rand Paul. And, this idea, and people are now understanding, oh, that's not Elon. Elon is a brilliant capitalist.
Yeah.
When he
super smart.
Go back to PayPal, when you look at the other things that he's done, and he, launched a technology company, and it's like, oh, I can corner the market on electric vehicles and do something cool and make it this like, status symbol, which it has been for many people, and really drive it. And one, he started extremely affordable. Remember when Teslas are like 32 grand? They were like,
there are the new models that are that price point too.
Yeah. And then there's the 130 to 150 plus, and, creating, again, building on this status. Like, no, if you look back at his history, he's an extreme capitalist. And I really venture, like, and he talks about being a Democrat, and then all of a sudden, last couple of years, like, no, this doesn't work for me anymore. And I think what I believe is he moved from California to Texas because he realized that taxes were overwhelming. It's like, if I don't get involved, my ability to be an entrepreneurial capitalist will be taken away. So I'm going to get involved. And in the process of getting involved, it's like, oh, wow, this is ridiculous. I'm just going to like expose all of it. And then got to the extreme corporate, ugly, illegal, like dirty handedness. And I think that's where, if people tried to take out Trump, the most recent assassination attempt, right? Going back a few months ago, I would not be surprised if we see, or if it hasn't been identified, coming after Elon.
I mean, he said it. And I think that's where, you're talking about serious, like military industrial complex type of things, right?
Oh,
where,
in like the number of commas involved.
It's incomprehensible. It's trillions, over the decades that's been.
I mean, collectively, yes.
Yeah, that's gone into the military, into these,
or just into nefarious places.
And these NGOs that get set up. You just, like Trump had said earlier, right? The swamp, like.
Here's the reality is, I don't think we really understood. We thought we knew what the swamp was.
Well,
but it's like they're dredging up stuff that's like, we're going to find Hoffa's body and realize that's not that big a deal.
And that's the thing. It's like a lot of, and I'm not saying to the extent of Alex Jones, but like a lot of these, you know,
At that point, is Alex Jones, who was convicted of a lot of like bad things.
Yeah.
I don't think he was, his things were like very emotionally driven, not financially driven. If you look at his main thing that he got hung up on and taken down for was Sandy Hook and creating that as a, planned whatever. All right, dude, that's just sick. Okay. But if he had gone down the rabbit hole of some of this money, if it was like, shown to him, dude, I don't think he would have gotten anywhere as close to what Elon has exposed.
Yeah. And that's where it's like the public, okay, for the public to know all of the truths of where all of this money goes to and how it functions, and like it's complex. And then what are we going to do, right? It's like, okay, $1 trillion was sent to Blackwater to develop some bio weapon that can wipe out half of humanity. I don't know, just like crazy shit. And it's almost like the public doesn't need to know. They don't want us to know. We're never probably going to know about where half of this money's been gone and where it's been spent on. And that's kind of the swamp, if you will, of like, it's just so dense and thick. We're talking about decades of this stuff. And I think at the end of the day, Musk probably uncovered some of it and trying, because he's a very smart guy, tracking it all. And that's where he's going. I know what I know, and maybe he knows too much. And I'm sure the guy has crazy security, detail, but
if he didn't before, he does now.
Yeah, he does now. So I think, it's not to go too far down that spectrum, even though I like to. I think it's fun to talk about it, but it's just, I think most people are just concerned about their jobs, taking care of their families, and at the end of the day, we want to get the financial situation in America, back to somewhat normal. But like about all that other stuff he's uncovering, like I don't think people would care to know. They don't care to know just because they're just trying to get by.
This is my belief because of how ugly it's gotten, and because there probably is at this point a significant fear of a reprise from attack. Is I wouldn't be surprised that we don't hear as much being released about what's uncovered in the short term. The long term, it'll come out. I anticipate that we're probably going to see less Doge exposures in the short term. It'll come out. It'll be revealed, but we got to get past this Ukraine thing. We have to get past the tariff situation. There's ongoing, digging up Doge and figuring out what needs to stay, what doesn't need to stay, what job gets cut, what jobs don't get cut. There needs to be a societal retooling per se of what jobs people are in, not in. And I think here's ultimately the biggest thing. And I just heard this earlier from a friend, and we were talking about what's affecting organizations today more than ever. This has probably been the last year. Change. And people are so change is so hard. And one of the things they brought up, and I think is really interesting, and we can see this in a lot of different ways. When people get so upset about change, and this person, my friend, pointed it out today. Sometimes it isn't the effect of the change. It's the relationships that change bring up that causes the most fear and or anxiety.
Yeah.
I work with my best friends. Now all of a sudden, I don't work with my best friends. What does that do to the rest of my life?
Yeah.
And it's amazing how you see it in abuse situations where that overwhelming, I will accept the bad that I'm in now because it's what I know, because I fear the unknown, even though it could be better. And coming back to a lot of these changes is how much is the change really upsetting the relationship structure people have, whether it's status, whether it is, has nothing to do with money or, make things work, but it is really all of those relationships. And it was a pretty, like I said, I'm reflecting on it now. It's pretty interesting to comprehend.
Yeah. Speaking of change, I think one of the things kind of to wrap things up is I'm actually interested if the new prime minister of Canada will be of the Conservative Party, and which would change a lot of the tariff and negotiation, because they haven't had anyone, I believe, in that Conservative Party for at least 10 years.
It's been a while. Yeah, I don't remember exactly how long Trudeau has been in, but I mean, we have Canadian business interests. We have a lot of friends that live in Canada.
Yeah.
What the U.S. doesn't know is that, and there's some people that are standing against that. I saw something this morning where Alberta is sending a contingency, the province of Alberta, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I'm going to repeat it because it's what the heck was speculated, is because I saw this from two completely different things. Alberta sending a contingent to Washington, say, hey, make us a territory. Like, we're serious. We don't want to be a part of these because it is more conservative. It is more agriculture and energy, and it's different. It's not like British Columbia. It's not like Ontario. It's different. And their level of taxation in Canada compared to the US is significantly higher.
Yeah. And the Canadian dollar's gotten crushed.
I mean, you talk about people in those regards. So when we move forward, you bring up a great point. How is this going to change the relationship between U.S. and Canada, having a new prime minister that potentially could be of the Conservative Party? When you look at the COVID was extremely rough in the years after. They were way more restrictive in Canada than anywhere in the U.S. Any state, you think of the worst states in the U.S., Canada as a country was worse.
I know people that moved after that out of Canada, actually moved out of Canada to Florida.
Yeah. And I know dozens of people that did, because they were like, we don't want to, no, like, this is not so.
Never again.
It's very interesting as we take all of this in. I think the biggest takeaway, you're listening, you're watching, is that this will play out. And it's really hard to look at it microscopically. We need to really zoom out, look at it with a telescope, and just let some of these things play out instead of getting so upset about how potentially the tariffs. Now, if you're business, and I know people that are in the business, they've been scrambling the last, I would say, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Anticipating some of these tariffs, dealing with some of these tariffs. And as I encourage someone, it's like, I know it's frustrating. I know it's a lot of work, but I can guarantee this. If you go down the path of what changes do we need to make to our business to positively impact these tariffs, you will find an efficiency you didn't even know was there. You will go through an exercise that will benefit your company. Is it a whole lot of work? Is it a whole lot of headache? Is it a whole lot of communication you need to make to customer, supplier? Yes, it is. But there is good to come of it if you search for that good. And again, as general society, it's like, instead of being microscopic, fade out to the telescope and say, what's the big picture? And if we can use these to ultimately put the U.S. economy in a better place in a year, 2 and 4 years from now, it's going to make us all better, rather than, it kind of hurts a little bit today.
Yeah. And my advice too, and Tyler, I think you would agree with this, is like, if you're really in that anxiety phase right now, like, go outside, put your hands in the dirt, and just do some work in the earth, just get your mind
I got
off.
to do that this weekend. Got to get out there, do a little, overseeded my pastures, get ready. They might start growing here in a week or so. It's supposed to get cold again, though. It's been in the 50s. It's been nice. I'm ready for
I was pulling weeds in the front.
Weeds. Look at you.
Nice. Just getting my hands in there.
Did you get Leaf out there to help you? Did you?
I did. He was helping.
Awesome.
He was helping.
Good.
But
well, as we wrap up, a reminder, the Impact Driven Leader Summit is May 7th and 8th, Spokane, Washington. You can grab your tickets. Be there. You want to be in the room. Go to idlsummit.com to reserve your space. You can buy a general admission. You could buy a VIP, or you could buy a table where you can bring either your coworkers, bring your top customers, any table any table person. If you buy a table, you will be recognized as a sponsor for the event. We will spotlight your business. So hope to see you there. Again, idlsummit.com, May 7th and 8th in Spokane, Washington. I hope to see you there. Until next time, choose to lead with impact.